Hello, and welcome to the League of Women Voters Watch CDC Candidates Night for the School Committee candidates. My name is Kathy Levisi, and I am a member of the League of Women Voters of Waltham. The League of Women Voters is a nonpartisan political organization that encourages civic engagement and education. We are presenting this event tonight with Waltham Alliance to Create Housing, Watch CDC. And I'd like to turn the microphone over to Daria Gear, who will say a few words.
Okay, so should we first explain how interpretation works so we can enable interpretation?
Yes.
Okay, so hello to everyone. My name is Kelly. I'm one of the interpreters. This event is going to be interpreted simultaneously. If you need simultaneous interpretation in English, on the bottom, as soon as the interpretation is enabled, you will find a globe that says interpretation of languages. From there, you can just click and select English. Now I'm gonna do the explanation in Spanish. Hola a todos, este evento el día de hoy va a ser interpretado en el lenguaje de español de manera simultánea. Si ustedes necesitan interpretación simultánea, les voy a pedir que en la parte de abajo, apenas se habilite la interpretación, busquen el icono del globo. Ahí dice lenguaje. Van a darle clic y van a seleccionar al español. Y van a escuchar absolutamente lo que dicen todos los candidatos en español. Okay, so now we can go ahead and start with the interpretation.
On behalf of Watch CDC, I want to thank the panelists for joining us and thank all the people watching. I am a
los
mom.
panelistas, a las personas que están el día de hoy acá, yo soy una madre y quisiera entonces dejarles saber.
Partner to support students and their families that are at risk of homelessness. So we have an important relationship, and we're happy to be a part of this forum. Thank you so much.
Now, Alan Humbert, our moderator, will say a few words. There are a few rules for this debate, and then he will also discuss the layout of the sequence of events tonight.
Good evening. My name is Alan Humbert. I'm going to be serving as the moderator for tonight's event, and I am a member of the League of Women Voters, and I want to welcome everyone on the panel here this evening and everyone viewing at home. The first piece that we have is that we will have our responses in basically three patterns. First, there'll be an opening statement from each of the candidates, and then there will be a series of questions, and then there will be a closing statement. For the opening statement, the statement will be a minute in length. And for the closing statement, it'll be a minute in length. The questions in between will be 2 minutes in length. And we will have a timekeeper to assist us with that. And she'll be showing a series of cards, which will show you 30 seconds, 15 seconds, and stop. And we would ask each of you to please conclude your remarks on or before when the stop sign is concluded, to be respectful of all the other panelists that we have tonight. We're going to have two questions that will be asked of everyone, the same question, and then we will have the rest of the questions will be individual questions. So we'll start off with two questions that each of you will answer, and then you'll each be asked individual questions after that. Are there any questions that you have for me on format or content? No. Okay. Sounds good. In that case, what I'd like to do is start off with our opening statement of John, if you'll bear with me, John Frashiska. Did I say it right, John?
Prasica, but Alan, I'll answer to anything. It's all right.
Okay.
It's
All right,
okay. Thank you, Al.
And then it'll be followed by Renee Arena.
All right, thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is John Frasica, and I am a candidate for re-election to the Waltham School Committee. First, let me thank all the people at the League of Women Voters of Waltham for allowing us this opportunity to speak with all of you. Back in 1991, my wife and I married, and we decided to make Waltham our home. Our 2 children have been through the Waltham schools. Robert is a graduate of the class of 2016 at Waltham High, and Nicole is currently a junior at Waltham High. It's been my honor to serve the children, parents, educators, and citizens of Waltham. I've had the opportunity to talk with many of you regarding our schools. Every issue is important to everyone I talk with. So as a parent of 2 children, when I ran back in 2013, I felt we needed a positive change in our district that would better the future of all our children. I serve on a bunch of committees. I'm the vice chair of the committee. I'm a school building committee member, superintendent search team chair, and a lot of other committees, subcommittees that we serve on. So again, I thank you all for the opportunity tonight, and I look forward to the evening.
Okay, thank you, John. Next, we will have opening statement from Renee Arena, followed by Elizabeth El Jamal. Did I say that right, Elizabeth?
Al Jamal.
Al Jamal, great, thank you. Yep. All right, Renee.
Hi, my name is Renee Arena, and I'm running for school committee here in Waltham. And I appreciate the opportunity to speak to the Waltham community, and thank you for holding this forum. I'm a graduate of Holy Family High in New Bedford. I've been a resident of Waltham since 1998. My husband and I have 3 kids, one of whom is in the Waltham Public Schools still. I have a BA from the University of Mass in Dartmouth and studied for a Master's of Education at Rhode Island College. I also went to a technical school. I'm a graduate of Women's Technical Institute in Boston, a former foster parent, so ask me about foster care. Former teacher's aide. I was a Sunday school teacher, a board member of the Waltham Museum, and of the I was a member of the Charles Street Neighborhood Association. I'm currently a volunteer with Cat Connection. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll hear from Elizabeth, and then followed by Deborah Coleman.
Hi, good evening. I'm Liz Al Jamal. I'd first like to thank the League of Women Voters and Watch for hosting this event. Back in January 9th of 2017, by a unanimous vote of the school committee and the city council, I was appointed to fill a vacant seat on the Waltham School Committee. The following year, I did win the election and have served for the past 5 years. Looking forward, and hopefully will win and serve another 4. My husband and I have lived in Waltham for over 20 years. My daughter, Sarah, is a 2021 graduate of Waltham High School. My daughter, Leah, is currently an 8th grader at the McDevitt Middle School. I hold a master's in social work from Boston College. I am a licensed certified social worker. I am the daughter of 2 immigrants, and I started school as an English learner. So I can understand where a lot of our families and our students come from. I serve on several different committees as a school committee member, and still involved in PTOs, had been involved in school site councils prior to being on the school committee. Again, thank you for this opportunity.
Great, thank you. Last responder in this series will be Deborah.
Hi, good evening. I want to thank the League of Women Voters and also Watch CDC for organizing this event and everyone that's able to join us this evening. My name is Debbie Coleman. I'm running for the first time for school committee. I'm a graduate of Purdue University. After I finished college, I moved to Waltham, so I've been here for almost 15 years. I have 2 young daughters. One's in 1st grade at Northeast Elementary, and the other one will start kindergarten.
Otra vez, está en kindergarten, empieza el próximo año. Actualmente estoy presidente actual.
Scholarship committees that award scholarships annually to graduating seniors. My goal, if I'm elected, is to really help ensure that all the children in Waltham both current and future generations grow to their fullest potential. They have positive schooling experience and be prepared for the future once they leave Waltham Public Schools. That became important to me when I watched my daughter go through kindergarten last year in the virtual first year. So thank you.
Great, thank you. The next question is a question that each of you will get a chance to respond to. And we'll start off with Renee. And the question is, what are the 2 priorities that you most hope to achieve in the next term if elected?
Hello. As far as the 2 priorities, one is I would like for an emphasis to be in our school system on academic excellence. And what I would like is for there to be also a return possibly to teaching phonics and for teaching traditional civics and teaching that that America is an exceptional country, teaching more love of country. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And next we'll hear from Elizabeth, followed by Deborah.
Hi, I guess the first would be the completion of the new high school. I've been involved with the whole process even prior to being on the school committee. I attended several meetings and have been following the progress all along. The new high school is not just this new building that we're putting up, but it also has a lot to do with the educational plan behind the building. And I want to ensure that we have all the resources in place and that our teachers are ready to embrace the new educational plan, which is different than we have been teaching. It takes a multidisciplinary approach. It uses a lot of project-based learning. So there's some learning to be done to make sure that we're ready and go full at it when we get into that new building. The second thing that I'm really interested in is social emotional learning. As a social worker, I've always taken a more holistic approach to what students need, making sure that their social emotional well-being is taken care of so that learning can take place. Since I began on the school committee, I have been involved with the social emotional learning working group. We have been working to identify SEL practices. We're working on developing or choosing a curriculum to work K-12 in our schools. And as we've seen through the pandemic, SEL is an important topic. It's something that we really need to be addressing. Those are my 2.
Great, thank you. So next we will hear from Deborah, followed by John.
Okay, the 2 goals that I have, seeing as though we don't really know where this pandemic is going, my number 1 priority is to ensure students are able to safely learn in person and continue on to, like Liz mentioned, the social emotional well-being of students has changed a little bit over the last, year and a half. So I think for them to continue to be able to learn in person is very important. Also, I would really like to support the ongoing curriculum development, provide students the highest level of academic and extracurricular skill and character building opportunities, really inclusive of individual differences and needs. I think there's always a way to make things better. I think we already have a great system in place. And I think that with work, and relying on our administrators and curriculum directors, and we can really make sure that we're ready to go to the next level.
Great, thank you. John, your turn.
Thank you, Alan. I think the 2 candidates who spoke just before me hit the nail on the head. It is definitely the well-being of our students, number 1. They've had a tough 2 years here, and I think to make sure all children are being taken care of, not just in the classroom, but also out on the baseball field, out on the football field, out on a concert that might be happening. And we have some wonderful teachers who do keep an eye on that, who watch those students. And but again, some students might not even speak up about it. So the well-being of the children, especially in these last 2 years, I mean, it's been that way, I think we'll all agree, you know, forever. You want to make sure the children are safe, but these last 2 years have been tough. The other issue is that new high school. I know what Mrs. Al-Jamal said, but in 2014, when I got on this school committee, I was asked to join the committee for a couple of years to work on the new high school, and we're still there. I will say, though, quite exciting where we're going right now and what I'm seeing. So that is definitely one issue that I want to make sure we stay on. The high school is not just on drawings anymore. It's actually the foundation's been poured and things are starting to move. And I want to make sure that school continues to go the way it should, so our children can get what other communities where they have all brand new high schools. I want to make sure our children are going to get the same thing, continue to get the same thing, same schooling that these other communities' children are getting. So again, those are my two issues that I'm keeping an eye on with a lot of others.
Great, thank you. The next question, we'll start off with Elizabeth. And the question is, what is your position on vaccine and mask mandates?
Okay. I think I was pretty clear at one of our school committee meetings where I stand on the vaccine mandates. I am a bit boggled that local school committees are being asked to make decisions regarding vaccines. The vaccine mandates that we do have come from above us. There are mass general laws that provide the Massachusetts Department of Health the authority to mandate vaccines. I believe that that is where that needs to come from if that is going to happen. I am not against vaccines. I myself am vaccinated. My family is vaccinated, but that is a decision that we make with our medical doctors. Not something that I think a school committee should be deciding for people. As far as masks, I did vote for the mask mandate in schools, mostly to ensure that we keep our kids in school. After what has happened over the past year and a half, we've seen the importance of having kids in school, in-person learning. A lot of the guidance that came down is telling us that if all the kids are masked, then they can stay in school. If they're not, they're going to be sent home, quarantining, and they're going to be missing out on in-person education. So masks, I did approve.
Thank you. Let's see, next we'll hear from Deborah, followed by John.
Hi, I'm going to basically echo what Liz just said. I spoke at the parent or family or open to the community meeting that I was pro-mask, and that was simply to ensure that the students were able to learn in person. I mean, just watching how younger folks did navigate learning online. I mean, I think everyone did the best that they absolutely could, but I think there's a huge benefit to have students in person and to keep the community and the students as safe as possible. I am pro-mask for the schools simply to ensure that they are able to continue in-person learning. And again, to basically echo Liz, I'm not a doctor. I don't think that the school committee should be voting on vaccines. I think that should come from someone else. Again, I am vaccinated. My husband's vaccinated. My kids aren't old enough to get vaccinated yet. But I don't believe that a school committee member should be deciding that. I think that should come from medical professionals. And if a family wants to, when their age bracket of children are eligible, that's up to the family. Thank you.
Thank you. John, your turn.
Thank you. So you're going to hear the same thing from me. I know with masks, the one reason why I made my decision is at times, you know, we all talk with parents. Parents call us, they ask questions, they give us advice, comments and such. But I had an opportunity to meet with a few students with their parents. And the same thing was said over and over again. Mr. Frasica, if I can wear a mask so I can go back to school, that's what I want to do. That's where my vote came. So that's where I went with the mask idea. For vaccines, I totally agree. I'm a communications person. I am not a doctor. So I cannot tell someone to vaccinate their kid. I don't feel that's right. I think, and Mrs. Al-Jamal touched on this, I think the state needs to be a little bit more, they need to give us a little bit more guidance. Things are starting to slow down a little bit, and but during all of this, I would have liked to have seen some more guidance from them, because it puts a school committee member such as us in a situation where we're making a medical decision for somebody. There should be a medical person making that decision and then advising us of what we should be doing. We didn't get a lot of that. So again, for me to tell somebody to vaccinate, I don't think that's my place. My family is all vaccinated. We have decided to do that. But that's my decision, or my wife and I, our decision. And I don't think I should be pointing a finger at somebody else saying not to. Masks, on the other hand, if it's going to get the kids back to school, that's what I think we needed to do. And that's what we did. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we'll hear from Renee.
Okay, thank you. Surprisingly, I agree with a lot of what has just been said. I'm not a medical, I'm not a healthcare professional, and but all I can say is that I'm very conflicted on this, because I am very much pro medical freedom. But I have real concerns about kids wearing the masks 30 hours a week for months on end, and concerns about the long-term effects of the COVID shot on a population that really, COVID is very rare, and they don't really give it to teachers. So and I think that those concerns should be counted as legitimate. On the other hand, I know that people, kids want to get back to school. My kid definitely benefited from being back in school. The remote learning was just not working for him, and then when he went back, he was far happier. So like I said, I'm very conflicted, but I'm pro medical freedom, and I think that having the masks on is a real concern. Yes, I think it should be left up to the parents to whether or not to mask or to vaccinate. Thank you.
Thank you. We're going to start the open round of questioning, and we'll be starting this round with Deborah. And your first question is, the United States is a noble experiment with both admirable and terrible events that have happened in our history. What do you think about how history should be taught to Waltham students?
That's a great question, and I've actually gotten a fair number of phone calls on this. I think it's important that we teach the truth and acknowledge the successes and importance of what all Americans have done for our country. I think it's important to teach the children facts, and make sure that we don't give a one-sided opinion on things, and really, teach what the history is. It is what it is, and we need to be honest with our children in an age-appropriate way and teach them everything about our country. Thank you.
Thank you. And let's see, next we'll hear from John. And the question is, what are your budget priorities? And how can Waltham keep its school costs down and still provide all the services that are desirable for our students?
Thank you. So that's one of the biggest issues I think we always have when the budget time comes up. You want to make sure the child gets everything they need. Every child, every school gets everything they need to make sure we are educating them properly, that we're giving them the materials that they need, we're giving the teachers the materials they need, etc. But at times though, and when you're on the school committee, the superintendent sends the budget to you and we all sit in a room. It's not private. We sit in a room where it's open to the public. And at times you have to start slashing away at things. You have to start cutting away at certain items on the budget that you hope won't affect the long term of what the child is learning and what the teacher can do or what the principal can have in their schools. So that's the one thing I do look at all the time. And I say that because often people say, you know, I pay taxes here, and I remind them that so do I. And I look at that very carefully myself as a taxpayer to say, okay, what can we do? Where can we cut? And sometimes you feel bad that you have to. And I shouldn't say it that the superintendent, you know, sends us this big thing and wants us to pass it. I mean, the superintendent of the time, whoever it is, sits there as well and has to figure out before it even comes to us what he or she wants to approve. So again, it's not easy, but it's definitely a priority that we take seriously. I take seriously when I sit in that room and start looking at what can stay and what can go before it can even head up to city council and over to the mayor's office.
Thank you. Next, we will hear from Renee. And the question for you, Renee, is what kind of technological solutions can be built into our school schedule to keep the school year from running virtually into July due to snow days?
Hello. Okay, so what kind of technological solutions can be used?
Right.
Basically, I would say that we'd have to go back at least for, you know, temporarily to remote learning. I'd honestly have to give that question a little bit more thought, but I think going back to remote learning would be the only way, so that it doesn't go into so that we don't go into July. And yeah, I would say now that there's the infrastructure there, now that we've actually been through it for you know, been through it for months on end, the kids should be able to log on and just do their work. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And our next question will be to Elizabeth. And the question is, adult education has been eliminated in Waltham. Would you support reinstating night school with programs such as expanded English language learning, GED classes, and other adult enrichment programs?
We actually have kicked off this year the Waltham Opportunity Institute, which is an alternative high school model for students who don't do well in a traditional high school schedule setting. Part of the program is also open to adult education. So we are starting to have adult education classes again in Waltham schools, which I am thrilled about. The model that we have for the Waltham Opportunity Institute is that we have funding for students who are still of age that we can get funding for. And then older adult people who are looking to pursue a high school diploma or a GED can pay tuition and be a part of the program. It's in its infancy. We're just getting started. I'm hoping to hear some feedback at a school committee meeting pretty soon so that we can see how it's going. And I hope that we can continue to grow it and expand and have those opportunities for everyone in the community.
Okay, thank you. We'll start the fourth round of questions with a question for John. And what is Waltham doing to meet the needs of the average student, for lack of a better phrase? We have advanced placement classes, English language learner classes, and special education classes, as well as vocational opportunities. What are you going to do to ensure that all of Waltham students' needs are well served?
Thank you, Alan. Yeah, so as I said at the beginning, we have to make sure all children have the opportunity to learn. And I think I find it at times, I mean, we've been talking about this probably for at least the 8 years I've been on. The average student sometimes, and I'll say I've had 2 different students go through this system. One's still in it, and there's always help for my son, who I know was, he had a learning disability himself. He had a reading comprehension issue, and he had help that allowed him to go off to college and now running his own business and such. So he was able to figure out what he needed to do. My daughter on the other side, though, she has A's and she's doing very well. But you look at that average student, and I really don't even like to call them the average student. They're a student. What are they getting? What are they doing? Are they getting good grades? Are they getting middle of the road grades? It's not that easy for them probably to maybe speak up and say they might need help, or maybe they are getting the help, but they already know what they're doing. It's a tough, I'm going to admit it, that it's a tough thing we've been talking about for 8 years now. And maybe it's about time we step up and try to figure out how the average student can take part. I will say this, in a lot of the schools, elementary, and middle and high school, definitely, there are certain groups and certain things that do happen that are able to help that every child, but even the middle of the road child, if you want to say, to take part in activities and do things with their peers. But on the education side, yeah, we might need to work a little bit more.
Thank you. The next question will be for Renee. And the question is, how can we accelerate the availability of universal pre-K in Waltham?
That's a good question. I would have to get back to you on that. I have not had the opportunity to research much about universal pre-K. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Well, let's see, and the next question will be for Elizabeth. And the question is, Waltham Public Schools have an overall dropout rate of 3.8% and a 12th grade dropout rate of 5.4%. The dropout rate is much higher among new immigrants. What will you do to reduce our overall dropout rate and the dropout rate for recent immigrants?
Well, I'm going to go back to talking about the Waltham Opportunity Institute. The dropout rate is something that I was closely looking at prior to being on the school committee. It's something that I engaged in with several staff over trying to figure out what was going on and why it was happening. And that's what brought us to where we are today. Oftentimes, we have students who are older who immigrate to this country who have to go to work. A traditional school schedule does not work for them. They're at work during the day. They can't be in class. They need extra supports, some of them, as far as English language acquisition. The Waltham Opportunity Institute is set up to meet the needs of those students. It meets in the evenings. It's geared for the student that does not fit into a traditional high school day. The goal is to be more flexible in how they earn credits, have classes available at times that they're available to attend so that they can attain that high school diploma. So we started. I've been on the steering committee for that. I hope to continue to be involved in that work. I think it's an important thing for us to have in Waltham Public Schools.
Great, thank you. Next question will be for Deborah, and it is, the new high school is expected to have a number of new programs for students. Since the new high school will not be open until 2024, are there any of these programs that should be piloted now before the school opens?
I feel like there's a lot of opportunity to pilot smaller programs and start to work out the kinks for the new high school. Which specific ones, I'm not sure. That would definitely be something that I feel like the committee should vote with, as well as, talk to the principal and the administrators to see which specific ones. But I do think that there's an opportunity to start piloting programs and, like I said, kind of working out the hiccups before the new high school starts and we ramp it up on a larger scale. I think there's some great programs that are going to be coming, and to see what we can work with the space, resources, who we have available to potentially start teaching, and then, kind of evaluate from there what would be the best ones to pilot sooner. Thank you.
Thank you. The next question is for John. And the question is, currently the Waltham school system has 3 levels: elementary, which I believe runs from K through 6, middle of 7 to 8, and high school 9 through 12. Is there a better alignment that will more advantageously serve our students?
So our system runs K through 5, 6 through 8, and then 9 through 12. I remember as a kid, 1,000 years ago, that it was called junior high, not middle school. And we went from 7th, 8th, and 9th, and then it went 10, 11, 12 at the high school. I think the system we have now seems to work well. I think no matter what, that it's always that changeover though, from 5th to 6th, from 8th to 9th, that you're still going to have that bit of a bumpy ride. It's a change, a student's going from a little school, their elementary school, small chairs, now they step up to a bigger classroom, and then by the time they get to the high school, my goodness. So it is a bit of a change for them, but I don't think I would change the way that is going right now. As a matter of fact, the state level is where that comes from. So I don't know if I would fight the state on, there's so many other issues we could be asking them to change, and that one there I think might be able to stay where it is. My opinion.
That's what we were looking for. Thank you. Next question is for Elizabeth, and it is, national studies have shown, oops, I'm sorry, it's Renee, I'm sorry. National studies have shown high school students do better with a later starting date or starting time of 8:30. Do you think we should make any changes in our high school starting times?
I think that, yeah, there is some validity to that, but I also think that if you do that, then the school they end up getting out later, and that may affect extracurricular activities. And it would also affect, if they have an after-school job. So I'm not sure exactly what the right answer would be, but for me, I also think that teenagers, they seem to just naturally need more sleep. I think that a later starting time would be a good idea, but then I also think that if somebody wants to go out for sports, then the practices end up being later. So it's a tough call. I think right now the high schoolers start at 7:30. It's a little early. I don't know. Maybe we could change it to 8. But that's just my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you. And let's see, the next question will be for Elizabeth. And what are your views on students driving to school instead of walking or riding a bus? Do you think that Waltham Public Schools should limit this practice in any way?
Certainly walking to school has its advantages. They're out getting exercise, some fresh air to and from school. Riding the bus also has its advantages in that it drastically cuts down on traffic around our schools during drop-off and pickup times. However, I would be hesitant to cut down on the ability for high school students to have a car available to them after school, because oftentimes they need that to get to work. And I would not want to impede a student's ability to get to work if they need to, or oftentimes they're also responsible for childcare for younger siblings and need to have that car available. So in theory, yes, it's a great, but I wouldn't want to limit it.
Alrighty, thank you. The next question will be for Deborah. And what we're looking at is, are we providing enough after-school programs at all grade levels? And what can be done to expand offerings and access to these programs?
So just to clarify, are you talking about like after-school care or after-school programs as in like extracurricular activities?
Well, I would say, I didn't draft the question, but I would say that for the younger grades, be after care, and for the upper level grades, enrichment or remedial programs.
Okay, great. So I can speak from personal experience, just due to the friends that I have that have elementary age students at different schools, as well as, what we have at Northeast. The after school program is run by the YMCA. They also have the before school program as well. And it seems that they've had no issues in terms of space and the number of people enrolling. So I feel at the elementary level, obviously, continue to evaluate that, but it seems like everything is okay there. In terms of the older grades and extracurricular activities and things of that nature, I think that's something you can continuously evaluate and see, are there other things that we can add? Are there certain interests that students are looking to explore that maybe aren't offered during the school day that we could offer, whether it be through a survey or, conversations with them directly. I think there's always a way to add programs that children are interested in. And I think, making sure that kids have the opportunity to explore their interests is certainly important. But in terms of what's offered now and different opportunities, I think it's something that just continuously needs to be evaluated and get the students' feedback, get the parents' feedback, get the administrators and teachers' input as well to see what they could offer and what areas they could maybe provide more opportunities with.
Great, thank you. Next question will be for John. And question is, some schools use student IDs as attendance records, bus passes, athletic event admissions, library cards, and lunch tickets. Should Waltham make use of this type of technology?
Yes, it is done. And there are certain things that are used with the ID. I know these past 2 years or last year wasn't as easy to use. They didn't even get picture taking. They didn't get their pictures taken because of the at-home learning. It can be, yes. I think you said about the lunches. I know there's a program there that has been put together well, where a parent can pay for their lunch through a program like that. So yeah, we have to remember though, and again, yes, I think you can use that card wherever you can use it. But on the high school level, that's where the IDs are. I think in the middle school level, I remember they have IDs there as well. But for elementary, you don't. So they're not going to be able to swipe a card to buy a lunch or anything like that. The cards can be used. I think the good thing is that it's around them though, and we know that student is a part of our school, that they belong in our school. We have so many safety things that are watched, people who follow the safety of our schools, and those IDs help. So we get to know who each student is and each adult that walks into the building. Who they are as well. But to utilize those IDs a little bit more on the high school and middle school level, you probably could, but that is something you'd have to sit down and figure out where. Buses, depending on where you are, where you live, you get a bus ride. So it's not necessary for that. Could they use it maybe on a city bus or a state bus? MBTA bus, that could be something to talk about as well. I know they're able to show their IDs, but could we utilize them a little bit more? Probably, but right now, I think the kids are wearing them and things are working okay.
Thank you. Last question of this section before we move on to the closing statements will be for Renee. Renee, Waltham has been known for its music and art programs. How will you support these programs and their continued maintenance or expansion?
Okay, I do think that the arts are fundamental, that they are really necessary for kids. So I would strive to make sure that they get that they get the funding that they ask for their equipment, that they get this, that they get the staffing that they need to teach kids, to give kids music lessons. I think that those things are all fundamental and fun, and also that that they have that they can offer band for kids. I think that's very important. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now commence the final round of this forum this evening with closing statements of 1 minute in length. And we'll start with Deborah, followed by John.
I just want to thank the League of Women's Voters and Watch CDC for hosting this event. It's been a great opportunity. Some of the questions that others were asked that I was not, I'm happy to provide my feedback on those as well at a later time. If you wish to reach out to me, you can certainly reach out to me via email at debbiecolemanforwaltham@gmail.com. I hope you consider me for one of your 3 votes for school committee. And again, just thank you for tuning in and expressing an interest in this election, and hope you'll vote for me. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Deborah. Next, we'll hear from John, followed by Renee.
Alan, thank you very much. Thank you for your hosting ability here. We appreciate that. Good questions from everyone, but calmly read to us, and I think that helps. Once again, I want to thank the League for allowing us this time to talk issues this evening. I've been proud to serve as a member of the Waltham School Committee. When I took my oath of office, I promised I would always do what is right for all students in Waltham. I will continue to follow that oath and be observant of the issues that surround our schools and our city. And I also hope that you will give me one of your 3 votes on Election Day, Tuesday, November 2nd. Thank you.
Great, thank you, John. Next, we'll hear from Renee, followed by Elizabeth.
Hello, I thank the League of Women Voters and Watch CDC for holding this event tonight. I hope that you will vote for me on November 2nd. My name is Renee Arena. You can get me at reneearena.com or Renee for Waltham SC at rcn.com. And I will be for vocational education, traditional civics, no critical race theory, medical freedom, and fiscal responsibility. Thank you.
Thank you, Renee. And to wrap it up for this evening, we'll have Elizabeth's closing statement.
I'd like to once again thank the League of Women Voters and Watch for hosting this event. Thank you to the participants, and I thank everyone at home for watching. I have proudly served for the past 5 years. I would love to serve for another 4. I humbly ask for one of your 3 votes for the Waltham School Committee. I can be reached at any time. Would love to chat, answer questions, let you know a little bit more about me. I can be reached at lizaljamal@gmail.com. And once again, thank you to everyone.
Great, thank you. That'll conclude our forum for this evening. I'd like to thank all of the participants for caring enough about Waltham to serve and be willing to serve, and look forward to having all of the voters that are eligible to be casting their vote on or before November 2nd for the candidates of their choice.
I would like to thank the candidates. I would like to thank Alan Humbert. I would like to thank Watch CDC, and thank you to all the participants that are watching today. And I would also like to encourage everyone to vote on November 2nd. Thank you.
Thank you. Have a nice evening.